Okay. So just to preface this woman has an old Mongolian name, but like the most common way I've heard it pronounced is Khutulun or Kualun, something like that. Khutulun. We're gonna go with that. Hold on, I'm actually gonna look this up real quick because I can't. Okay, I was close. It's Kutuyun. Okay, so Kutuyun was a Mongolian noblewoman who lived during the time of the Mongol Empire. She is recorded to have been a great warrior and was especially noted for her wrestling prowess. Such was her renown that she was written about by a Rashid al-Din, a Persian writer living in, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, and famed Venetian traveler Marco Polo. You guys are so quiet.
I don't want to make fun of Marco Polo.
You can, though.
I don't think it's appropriate, though.
He's not the focus of the story.
That's the point.
Okay, so Kutuyun was also known as Shining Moon, and she's believed to be born around 1260. So just a little bit of background on the Khan Empire. As I'm sure you're aware, it was started by Genghis Khan, who unified a number of nomadic tribes under a single banner. And while he did bring many advances to the regions he conquered, you probably know him more for his reputation of brutality. And some of his warlike traits were said to be passed down to his descendants, including his great-great-granddaughter, Kutuyun. At its height, it was the largest contiguous empire in human history, stretching from China to Europe to the Middle East.
Large.
By 1260, when Kutuyun was born, the Mongol Empire was starting to fray at the seams, and a civil war was imminent. Some of the Khans, Kutuyun's father, Kaidu, who among them favored the old ways of a nomadic lifestyle, where Kublai Khan, Kaidu's uncle, was more into politics, governing well, and other things that the average Mongol was just not interested in. Eventually, Kaidu and Kublai, they began outright warring against each other in a conflict that would last 30 years. Throughout this, Kaidu relied on one person above all others when it came to military expertise. And it was not any of his 14 sons. It was Kutuyun. Kutuyun was brought up by her father in the nomadic way of life, just like her 14 previously mentioned brothers. Her training included wrestling, horse riding, and archery, and as she grew up, she excelled in these sports. It's also often been said that she was Kaidu's favorite child, and as she's shown through in military matters, her father would frequently seek her advice on such issues. One of the sources of information about Kutuyun comes from the writings of Marco Polo. The Venetian traveler wrote that Kutuyun was so well made in all her limbs and so tall and strongly built that she might almost be taken for a giantess, and that she was so strong that there was no young man in the whole kingdom who could overcome her, but she vanquished them all.
Did he really say that she was so well made in all her limbs?
Yep.
Alright. That's one way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really long-winded way of saying his kind of woman.
I know, I was like, that's one way, I guess. Like, you do you, but like,
Man's not a coward.
But there's easier ways of saying that. Like,
it's old-fashioned version of she be swole.
Oh, she's so swole.
Old-fashioned version of I'd love for her to crush me between her thighs.
I mean,
I feel like he just wasn't.
I can't say that's not wrong, though.
I feel like he just wasn't sure enough with himself to say that, though. He was just like, how do I say I want to crush her, or I want her to crush me with her thighs without saying that or implying that to this generation of people?
Oh, just you wait.
Oh, no.
He's not going to do anything, but you'll see what I mean later. Okay, so, in addition, Marco Polo also wrote that Kutuyun's valor in battle was second to none in her father's army, and that her preferred method of combat was to rush into the thick of battle, seize upon one enemy horseman and drag him off to her own people. I quote, "Sometimes she would quit her father's side and make a dash at the host of the enemy, and seize some man thereout as deftly as a hawk pounces on a bird, and carry him to her father. And she did this many a time." Or she'd pick one... Huh?
I mean, that's one way of getting them.
Yeah. Basically, she would f*** you in particular and dragged a guy off to his death.
Exactly. That's one way of getting them.
It's a real good way of demoralizing the enemy.
That really is. It's also just like a f*** you in particular.
Yeah.
There's no reason to this. Just f*** you. What I do? Just
Nothing.
you.
So, when Khutulun came of age, Kaidu wanted to marry her off. But Khutulun declined. She basically said, "But I don't wanna."
Me too.
And I assume this led to an argument, and they eventually settled on the condition that she would only marry the man who was able to beat her in her favorite sport, wrestling. Kaidu agreed to his daughter's request and allowed her to marry the man of her choice. Now, just for a little bit more background, the Mongols of Kaidu Khan's clan valued physical ability above all things. They bet on matches constantly, and if you won, people thought you were gifted by the gods. Now, also, these weren't like modern day matches, where like things are like flyweight and lightweight and heavyweight and stuff like that. If you wanted to wrestle someone, you wrestled them. It didn't matter if you were bigger or smaller than them. You got to wrestle, and this would just keep going until someone hit the floor.
I want to wrestle The Rock now. I can do it, guys. I believe in myself. This year is the year that I'm going to wrestle Dwayne The Rock Johnson in honor of this. Just, yes.
So after like Khutulun and her dad had come to this agreement, Khutulun proclaimed throughout the entire Mongol Empire that any man was welcome to challenge her in wrestling, and should the man defeat her, she would be his wife. However, if he lost, he would have to give her 100 horses.
Yes!
Mm-hmm.
Me too!
And seeing as Khutulun was the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the empire, it's not surprising that many men were tempted to try their luck.
But how many horses did she get?
Oh, just you wait.
Oh, yes!
Many suitors came, but none were able to defeat Khutulun. She gained over 10,000 horses from defeating her suitors.
Yes!
One of which being a young prince who, I guess just being like cockier than your average guy, offered 1,000 horses in place of the usual 100. And the thing about this young prince is that Kaidu and his wife like actually took a liking to him, and Kaidu went to Khutulun and just asked like, "Hey, he's a decent guy. I just want you to get married. Could you just throw the fight?" And she went, "But no." And the prince was defeated, and she gained 1,000 horses.
I don't know.
It's like the plot of Brave, but better.
Yeah.
Like, if 1,000 horses were on the line, I would definitely want the 1,000 horses. Like, let's be honest here. If I had to choose between a man and 1,000 horses, I would rather have 1,000 horses.
Yep.
It's every girl's dream, like 1,000 ponies, just having a good time.
So after she had...
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, it's fine.
I was just gonna say I would name each and every one of them Olaf, just like the SpongeBob episode. This is Olaf, and then one of them is like, what was the guy's name? Gherkin or something like that? I don't know. Okay, I'm done.
So after she had gained these 10,000 horses, no one's really entirely sure what happened after these matches, although it is believed that due to her stubborn refusal to take a husband, people began to talk. And of this belief, rumors would began to spread around the empire that she was having an incestuous affair with her father, and that realizing the problems that her refusal to marry was causing her family, both because, like, ew, and I imagine, like, you can only dry heave so many times before it starts to cause, like, physical damage. So, seeing that this was causing problems for her family, it's said that she eventually did marry someone. However, no one's really sure who. Like, some people claim that she ended up marrying a war prisoner whom she found good looking, while others speculate that she just married a soldier in her father's army. No one knows. Although, it's just like the general consensus is that if she did get married, whoever she married never beat her at wrestling. It was just a matter of like, okay, we gotta do this.
I mean, like, to be fair, that's a good reason to marry if you didn't want to marry.
Yeah, this is true.
Like, just protect the family honor. Just because, like, no, these rumors are false. I'll show you.
So near the end of his life, Kaidu attempted to install Khutulun as the next Khan leader, only to meet stiff resistance from others. Particularly, Khutulun's many brothers.
Rude.
Yeah.
Did she say they can have the crown if they beat her in a wrestling match? Damn.
Because it was such a stiff resistance, or like such a resistance from everyone, when he died in 1301, he decided to just let one of his sons succeed instead, as just sort of like a fine, I'll choose my second favorite.
Oof.
I wonder if he just went up to his son and was like, "You are my second favorite. Your sister deserved this more than you," and then just died. Just like that. That's how his death went. He went up to his son and was like, "You're my second favorite, but everybody's resisting. So just know that your sister's better than you."
I mean, second place out of, what was it, 15?
Yep.
Yeah, I think.
That ain't too bad.
Yeah. So Khutulun died under unknown circumstances around 1306, just a few years after her father, at the age of 46. Afterwards, the Mongol Empire, particularly the more nomadic factions, began to crumble, and she was forgotten for centuries. She only began her comeback to historical prominence starting in 1710, when a Frenchman named Francois Petit de Lacroix.
That's a name.
Hmm?
I want that
It's also
name.
an awful drink, but yeah.
But I want that name. It's a nice name.
While putting together his biography of Genghis Khan, wrote a story based on Khutulun. This story was called the Turanda, I don't know how to pronounce that, or Turkish Daughter, but it greatly changed from the facts of her life. In it, Turanda, or however, Turkish Daughter, challenged her suitors with riddles instead of wrestling matches, and if they failed her challenge, they were killed.
Yes, because women can't fight.
Yes. Centuries later, in the early 1900s, the story of the Turkish Daughter, which is what I'm going to say from now on, was turned into an Italian opera, except it got even farther from Khutulun's actual history. The opera became about a take-no-nonsense woman finally giving into love. Oh, dearie me.
Rude.
These people were cowards.
Yes. But while the West may have totally rewritten history with its recasting of Khutulun into that, Mongolia continues to honor Khutulun's actual story to this day. And by that I mean that the traditional outfit worn by Mongolian wrestlers is conspicuously open-chested. The reason being to show that the wrestler is not a woman, in difference to the undefeated Khutulun.
Hot.